Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem, amma ba'd. Today we are going to discuss the Islamic economic thought of Imam al-Ghazali, right? So it's a quite interesting scholar, by the way. I think most of you, I think all of us, we know the scholar's name because he's quite popular because of his magnum opus, Ihya Ulumuddin. So I think most of the time when we talk about Imam al-Ghazali, we talk about his, his mysticism, tasawwuf, or his logical arguments, kalam. Or maybe sometimes we talk about his, the secrets of Sharia, the Asrar Sharia. Those are the things mostly available in Ihya Ulumuddin and most of the other books that he wrote. But he also equally promotes the learning of economic affairs. He even says that it is actually compulsory wajib for you to learn the economic affairs, the Muamalat, the transactions and all. I think he equally gives credit to the knowledge of economics. I think this class is going to talk about it. So basically speaking, Imam al-Ghazali, I think you know him, Abu Hamid. His name is Abu Hamid Mohamed ibn al-Ghazali. He's an 11th century Arab scholar. So he was born in 1058 and he died in 1111. So it's around I think 5th century of Hijrah. I think 400 something he was born. Usually we call him a great philosopher and a Sufi Islamic mystic scholar. We talk about his Islamic ethical values, philosophy, and but he also includes all the dimensions of life, including economics. So that's what I think quite interesting to know about his work, because you can't see a scholar actually dedicate himself for one field, because at the end of the day, every single field is actually related to your life, and you agree that though you are here as an economic student, you are not only learning economics, you learn everything else. You also go to learn some courses from university level and then Kulliyyah level and then department level, right? So I think it is quite important to have a mixture kind of, a mixture of, all those knowledge that's going to help us, because our life actually covers all the aspect of knowledge. So basically, Imam al-Ghazali, most of his thought and his philosophy in general is actually the concept of God. Okay, there's a God, and then his relationship, the God's relationship with his creation. So now mostly he talks about God and his creation. So when it comes to creation, he talks about the world as a part of creation. The world, when it comes to world, I think everything else other than the human being. All right, it includes all the universes, multiverses, and everything. So his creation, he talks about the world, the universe, and then the mankind. Basically, he is a mainstream Islamic fiqh scholar as well. So you can see lots and lots of fatawa and fiqh masail that he actually talks about. And then also particularly when it comes to kalam, he is an Ash'ari traditional school, whereby he described the essence and attributes of God. So initially he was not inclined to Sufi tradition at the early, but later he was actually very much inclined to Sufi undercurrents of defining the relationship, the Sufi relationship between God and mankind. So then he proposes his own consumption as well, because of that he was having his own consumption of essence and attributes, essence, attributes, actions of God. So the most important part I like about I really admire his work. The most important part, he says that it is not that Allah has created, so it is not that everything in the world that you see is a creation, and it is not that only Allah has created it. It is the same Allah who is also functioning in it. And so this is actually, you need to understand, you have, of course, you need to believe this. Of course, first of all, we have to believe this, and then we need to also understand it. Everything what's happening is Allah is the one who is doing it, right? So we believe that everything comes from Allah. So now, if let's say there is a creator of automobile car, and then he created it, and when it start running, the creator has nothing to do with that running. It is the driver who is actually driving the car, but the creator of the car has nothing to do with that running that car on the road. It's not the same when we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, Imam Ghazali says, it is not that only he created it, but he also attributes his laws, there's a Zat and Sifat, so that he is governing, and he is becoming the a sabab, the purpose, the essence of each and every action. So this is what actually Imam al-Ghazali tried to prove. All right, I know it's quite deep into go into it, but this is not the right class, by the way, to go into deep, that kind of deep. But it is just, I just want to tell you about his basic idea, which we call Islamic philosophy of Imam al-Ghazali, right? He says in one place, that's quite interesting. He says that in this world, in this universe, man lives as a creature. All right, you and me, we live as a creature, but we have an immortal soul, but mortal body. Our body is a mortal, right? Because body is going to destroy, the body is going to be, when we go to Qubur, and then of course the body is going to, it's not going to be the same, right? It's not immortal, it is mortal, but our soul is actually immortal. So now the argument that he is advancing, that man is neither good or evil in nature. Man is man, he's not good or evil in nature, but naturally speaking, the fitra is actually the human being always close to good, unless there is a trigger or there is a deviation from shaitan, then you go to evil. Otherwise, fitra, that's why kullu mauludin yulad al fitra. You remember the hadith? Prophet said that every child is actually, when it was born, it's actually a Muslim. So so if you see that we are in this universe, and our soul is immortal, our body is mortal, and we always need to go to the good than evil, unless someone is actually deviating you, which is actually what shaitan is doing. So there is a constraint framework actually that we are actually following in this world. It seems like we are given free will, but we are not given freedom of choice. What I mean by that, because when you are naturally created as a human being who actually inclined to to the good of your life, the goodness of your life, you are not actually allowed to kill someone. You are not actually allowed to steal somebody. You are not actually allowed to, you know, misuse or abuse somebody, right? Because which means that you are not actually given full freedom of whatever you can do, right? So 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 he says that, you know, you have given a limited choice of making your world for your akhirah, so that it's not that easy for you to make your akhirah. You have to strive for it. So this is what actually, you know, he says. Even though you are naturally inclined to good things, but there are so many bad things around, it will always deviate you. It will always redirect you from one place to another place. But in order to get your akhirah, you have to strive in this world, which means that you are not fully given freedom that do whatever you want, because that makes the point. Because if I say you can do whatever you want, if I give you full freedom whatever you want, then what about the objective of getting your akhirah? In order to get falah, you have to strive in this world. So this is what actually is philosophy that he talks about. All right, so then okay, then when we want to talk about his work, I mean his economic thought and everything, I think there's a lots and lots of things to talk about. So let me just give you a few things with regard to his background. Of course, you know him very well. As I told you earlier, it was Nizam al-Mulk Tusi who appointed him as a chair of theology. All right, and of course, he before that, before he became the chair of theology at the Nizamiya College of Baghdad in 1091. Do you know how old he was when he became the chair of theology? He was only 34. All right, he was only 34. He was there in Baghdad. Then he wanted to go for Hajj. Then he wanted to learn so many other things, and then he started writing Ihya Ulumuddin. And then like I told you earlier, he was not very much inclined to the Sufism earlier, but later in his life that he was part of Sufism. And he spent many years, of course, in Palestine, Syria, Arabia, Iraq, and Egypt, Misr. Finally, he was able to die in, he was even came back to Naishabur. Later, he was in Tus. This is the place where he died in 1111. 1111. Right, al-Ghazali lived during the reign of Great Seljuk dynasty. I told you Nizamuddin Tusi was in Seljuk dynasty, right? So within the same dynasty, he died after Nizamuddin Tusi. Okay, so what exactly he is trying to prove through his work is actually, like I told you, it's a lot actually. If I have to cover his entire work, you know, he has done many works in ethics, logic, dialects, theology, jurisprudence, Sufism, tafsir, Quranic commentary, tafsir, hadith as well, and then al-Kalam, theology. So he has a mixed philosophical, religious, ethical, sociological, and economic consideration into his writing. All right, so let me just give you a few of his work, so you can get what are the work, what are the names. It's not only Ihya Ulumuddin, by the way. The first one is At-Tibr al-Masbuk fi Nasihat al-Muluk. This is actually originally written in Persian language. Later it was translated into Book of Counsel for Kings by Farsi Begli. This is the great book. And then we have Ihya Ulumuddin, actually magnum opus, because Ihya Ulumuddin has many chapters inside. It's a 4 volumes, by the way. There are many chapters inside, and one of the chapter is actually what we are going to discuss for this particular class, right? Adab al-Kasb. That is one chapter from Ihya Ulumuddin, all right, which I will tell you after this. What is it all about? Then he has book al-Iqtisad fil i'tiqad. So don't misunderstand the word al-Iqtisad means, it doesn't mean economics in Arabic here. Al-Iqtisad means the golden mean in faith. A book on theology. This is the theology book, not economic book. And then he has a book also in fiqh, al-Mustasfa min ilm al-usul, knowledge of the rules of jurisprudence, a book on the principles of Islamic jurisprudence. He also have a book on logic, Mizan al-Amal, one of the earlier works on ethics. Then he has a book on deliverance from error, al-Munqidh min al-Dalal, an account of the development of his religious thought. I think this book is most probably, kind of debate, answering, the refutal and everything. Yeah? Also, we need to know about, he must be acknowledged that for the sake of integrity, honesty, like most of his logical arguments comes from Aristotle. Like I told you earlier at the beginning of the class, beginning of the semester, we talked about it. Most of our ulama, they learn logics, especially the Greek philosophy, and then they were able to synthesize the logic and revelation, the aqli and naqli, the wisdom and verses of Quran. So these are the things. He is one of them actually who learn a lot from Aristotle. All right. Okay, so I think this is his background about him. Now we are going to talk about his economic philosophy. Before I jump into talk about the philosophy, the economic ideas, I want to give you the book itself, right? The Kitab Adab al-Kasb wal-Ma'ash. So let me talk about the book first, and then we go into his economic ideas in details. Yeah. Okay. The book, actually, as I told you, the book name is the Kitab Adab al-Kasb wal-Ma'ash. Kitab, the name, book. Adab means conduct, of al-Kasb means earnings, right? Well, Ma'ash. Ma'ash is actually sustenance, all right? Earning and sustenance. You can say that. Of course, it's like a managing household. Al-Ma'ash must be something to do with your. Of course, it is related to economics, but this is the old name they call it. Dealing your household, or maybe your, dealing with the seeking of sustenance, seeking of rizq, everything. So when the reason why actually he wanted to write this particular chapter, there are so many chapters, by the way. This is one of them. Particularly, he wanted to write this chapter to show that there are 3 kind of people, right? The first kind is actually those who always busy in the life of this world at the expense of their next world. You got what I mean? So they spend everything. They don't spend anything that they are supposed to spend some time for akhirah. They have to spend more time actually for akhirah, but at the expense of that time, they spend everything into the world. So they did not spend anything. It means that they don't have any savings in akhirah. All their savings for this material world. This is the first group of people. Imam Ghazali called them by the name of al-Halikun. Halaka, halak, not halaka, yeah? This is halaka. Halaka means what? Someone destroyed himself. So these people actually are people of perdition, meaning they die themselves, they destroy themselves. The second kind of people, the second type of people, the one who devote themselves entirely for akhirah, all right, and they sacrifice their entire world for it. Meaning to say that is the quite opposite to the first group. So they spend everything for akhirah. They don't spend anything. They don't spend any time for their world. So they don't earn anything for the world. They don't eat good. They don't wear good, and they don't drive good. All right, everything for akhirah. So with regard to these people, Imam Ghazali says they are al-faizun, regardless of the criticism. You can criticize them, by the way. You can criticize them. How come you spend all the time in the masjid? How come you spend all the time in tilawah? How come you spend all the time every day fasting? You can criticize them. Of course, you can complain that you are doing too much. You are making too much. So be careful. You can say it, but at the end of the day, if you look at their account, the saving account for akhirah is actually complete full. Actually, more than it is keep on what they call it, multiplying. That because when they become the model, when they become the reason for others to do good work, see, they keep on praying, right? So people who see them, they at least think, okay, he keep on praying, at least let me pray 5 times, right? So when you see someone keep on fasting and then you at least see them and then you think, okay, at least let me fast at least once a month other than the 30 days of Ramadan. All right. So now, as I told you, their saving is going to multiply because of these people's constant dedication towards the worship. So in a way, it's also reflect to those who are not constant in their prayers. Okay, so that's why I said regardless of the criticism, all right, they can criticize, you can say they are not doing right. Okay, they whether to listen to you or not is up to them, but they are faizin. Okay, they are the faizin. Faizin means what? Successful. They are succeeded. Okay, but Imam Ghazali brings the third type of people, which is actually Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Bismillah, in the name of Allah, we both of us, inshallah, will be there. This is what actually we can do the best. All right, with the help of Allah only. He says those who are occupied with their livelihoods, occupied in their business, occupied in their economic transaction, occupied in their family and everything. All right. At the same time, they do all those things for the sake of their salvation in the life of the hereafter. See, I'm telling you, the third type is not the easy type. Maybe compared to the third type, the first type and the second type is actually easy thing to do. I mean, easy means what? The end result is very clear. The first type, the end result very clear. They don't get anything in the hereafter. The second type, for definitely they will get everything in the hereafter. The third type, what he says actually, he doesn't say that okay, you spend half time for the world, you spend half time for the masjid. He didn't say that. I know when we talk about balancing, we always say that okay, spend enough time in masjid, spend enough time in market, but that's not going to happen because masjid only 50 minutes per day, mostly, right? Most of us, we spend only 10 minutes per prayer. If we go to masjid for prayer, now we don't even go. Maybe now not 50 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, maybe, maybe 25 minutes, maybe. I think hardly we spend only 5 minutes for prayer, right? Because we pray at home, right? Only 5 minutes we pray. So now just think about all this. So he says that, it's not about, spending equal time for dunya and akhirah. No, he doesn't say that. He says those who are occupied with their life, seeking the livelihoods in their economic affairs and everything, for the sake of their salvation in the life of the afterlife. So, for example, you do business not to become rich in the world. You do business to become rich in the hereafter. That's a very difficult. That's the $1 million question, right? Think about it. I go to university not to get my graduation, not to become BSc honest in economics, or just masters, bachelor's in economics, or PhD in economics. I go to the university so that I can get my degree in hereafter, right? I go to the market, I'm selling something, I'm selling the vegetables, not to get profit from the vegetables or from the wet items, the dry items, whatever that I'm selling, not to be useful for the people so that they can be healthy. Not only that they can be healthy because of my selling, but I can also become healthy in hereafter. So this is what he called the people of the golden mean. The golden mean. They are al-muqtasidun. Remember the word al-muqtasidun. Now you take the word out, al-muqtasidun. Put the word aside and then you see. What is actually muqtasidun? Iqtasada yaqtasidu fahuwa muqtasidun. This is what they say in Arabic grammar. If you learn grammar, this is how they teach you. Iqtasada is actually a noun of the past. Yaqtasidu is actually the noun of the present. Then the pronoun is actually muqtasid. So this is where actually his entire idea comes. His entire economic idea comes. His entire world, whatever today we call world. You go to any country, you want to get award, you want to work for something, you want to work in United Nations, let's say, or you want to work in politics, let's say, or you want to work in government sector, or you want to work in a museum, wherever, whatever you do, agriculture, industry, anything, but can you make that profession for the sake of your salvation in the life of the afterlife? Okay, that's, I tell you, million or billion dollar question. Right? So this is what amazing about Imam al-Ghazali, by the way. So let's move to, there are 5 chapters in this book, by the way. All right. Within the book, the one I told you, he was doing it focusing on 3 different people. Now we talk about the content of the book. So this book has 5 sections, I may say sections. The first section talks about the fadl. Fadl means merit. It talks about the what are the merit of someone who do the exhortation, meaning to say someone motivating to earn living. Al-hath. Al-hath means motivating. What are the merits of motivating? What are the merits of motivating doing earning a living? Number 2, what are the valid business contract, transaction, and dealings? Okay, the second one is about the valid business contracts, transaction, and dealings. Okay. Number 3, The third section talks about the meaning and practice of bringing the justice, practice of justice in transaction. Practice of justice in transaction. Number 4, the book talks about, yes, this is very good. Talks about the meaning and practice, again the same thing, meaning and practice of benevolence, ihsan. The first one is adl. The third section talks about al-adl, al-adalah. The fourth section talks about al-ihsan. What is the meaning and practice of magnanimity, or you can call it benevolence in business dealing? Can I really bring ihsan in business dealing? See that? Because most of you know the hadith. When someone asked Prophet mal ihsan, he asked mal iman, mal islam. You remember the hadith? He asked mal ihsan. What is ihsan? He said, "An ta'budu Allah ka'annaka tarahu, fa in lam takun tarahu, fa innahu yaraka." Which means that, what is ihsan? Which means you pray Allah. You pray like Allah is watching, like you are watching Allah. You pray like the way that you are in front of Allah and you are watching Him. At least if you cannot bring that practice, at least you think that Allah is watching you. The best is actually what? You say Allahu Akbar and immediately you watch Allah. It's a different dimension that we talk about. Different dimension, right? The world and the hereafter. So suddenly you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, you have to take lots and lots of practice to do that. It's not that easy, but at least you can think. This is what Prophet said. If you cannot do that, it's okay, fine. Don't worry. Don't complain that you cannot see Allah. At least think that Allah is watching you. That one you can do that, right? When you say Allah.
Your mic is not working.
Sir, I can hear your voice.
Sorry. Can you hear my voice now?
Yes, sir. Now we can.
Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So where was I? What was the last thing you heard from me?
Talking about ihsan, Sheikh.
Good, very good. So look, when Prophet ﷺ talks about ihsan and ibadah, look how Imam al-Ghazali bringing that ihsan in tijara, in muamalat. So this is how, he says the fourth one, he talks about the meaning and practice of ihsan in business dealing. So when you do business, when you do muamalat, when you work in the office, when you are a secretary or the admin staff or the managing director or the CEO of the company or anything, or politician, or you are the parent, or you are the teacher, or you are any business other than parent, by the way. I mentioned parent cannot be the business. Okay, other than parent, anything that deals with economics, you can bring benevolence. How? You need to think that Allah is watching you. Can I cheat in my work? Can I cheat in my exam? Can I cheat just to get my grade? Huh? Can I take bribery from someone? Right? Can I give false promise like politicians they do? right? Can I, you know, abuse a certain group of people in the world? All this comes here. You need to think Allah is watching you. If you can think Allah is watching you, then you are bringing ihsan in all the business dealing. All right. Then again, number 5th also very important. The 5th section talks about on the merchant, especially the one who dealing all this, the people, the one who in business, in economic affairs, everything. He says that while they do their dealings, they should have a shafqa. He used the word shafqa. Shafqa means what? Sincere concern for his soul and his service to the religious life. You know, while he is doing all this, because you know, when I became the CEO of the company, you know that how many appointments I will have. When I become the managing director of a company, when I become the dean of the Kulliyyah, when I become the rector of the university, when I become the chief minister of a state or minister of a country, when I become a policeman and then I become a deputy DG, district general, or when I become the lawyer and then I become the judge. So what happens that I will be full of appointments, right? So Imam Ghazali says, he talks about the 5th section. The 5th section talks about to have concern, shafqa on his soul, in his own soul, so that he actually can open his life to give some time for his religious life. So that is a kind of motivation that he gives, you know. Make sure that you are working so hard, of course, but make sure that you are also responsible for hereafter. So this is what actually is called balancing. Al-Iqtisad. Al-Iqtisad, by the way, is the direct meaning of actually the balancing. That's what we call, you know, it's a kind of balancing, economic balancing. So this is all actually, he talks about, you know, 5 sections of all this book. I think we can go into his economic ideas now. I think you know that the book that I'm talking to you about, Alhamdulillah, the book is already been translated, and there are many works has been done. One of them is the good work by Dr. Adi Setia, my favorite. So I think you can also read his work. I already given you in Italian. Yeah. There are many. I only gave you only few things. There are many things that you can learn from the book. So about his economic ideas, of course. This is what I told you. If you understand, it will be covering in all his economic ideas, right? He talks about, you know, economic pursuit is that economic achievement is a means to the end. Economic achievement is the means to the end, not an end itself. I really like, you know, someone sent me this message. I still looking for the you know, the writer of that message, but I didn't get it. I asked my friend as well, but I was not able to get who is the real writer of this statement. It's a very good statement. The statement comes like this: Sharia should not be relegated. Sharia should not be relegated to being a means to an end. Sharia should not be relegated to being a means to an end. Rather, should be used to determine the end itself. I think it's really, you know, something very much. It is very much related here. So our Sharia must be the end. We cannot use our Sharia to achieve the economic pursuit. This is what actually he says. Achievement is a means to the end, not to end in itself. Wealth is a means to the success in the eternal life. So So that's the reason why he says that it is quite important for every man and woman to understand economic affairs so that he can make himself, maintain good health, maintain a good house, good ride, so that he can fulfill the moral obligation, including seeking of knowledge and application in action, right? I think I talked to you about these three groups of the people, and of course this is about activity for halal. Earning has a religious status. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided resources for the benefit of mankind, and they should work and earn them, use them, and expect the credit of care. I got it. Success in the hereafter can be achieved when economic activities are carried out in order to be free from the dependence on others, to fulfill one's own need and the needs of others, satisfy other Islamic obligations, provided Islamic norms and earnings have been followed. Okay, this is all we talked about it. Here he says, according to Imam Ghazali, the basic knowledge of Islamic economics is compulsory on every economically active Muslim to the extent of basic Islamic legal norms relevant for his activity. In fact, he also brings the hadith, the statement by Umar ibn Khattab. Umar said, those who doesn't know the market mechanism should not go to the market. But it's a kind of motivation from Umar ibn Khattab to learn the market and then go to market, not just go without learning. Right? Okay. Then let me also give you a few fiqhi background of Imam al-Ghazali. Fiqh al-Muamalat, sections of his writing. Then we will go into one by one, inshallah. He talks about a trade or buy. I think this one comes under the second section of the book as well. He talks about, the arkan in buy a trade. Usually, Imam Ghazali says there are three elements, arkan in buy trade. The two transacting parties, the buyer and the seller, which is two, and then the item of exchange, which is actually al-Mabi'. Now, this is quite interesting. Why? Because I think you all know that some of you, I taught you Fiqh for Economics 1. When we talk about the pillars of contract, I think some of you remember, of course, it was three, but not in this order. Anyone remember? The first one was expression, sigha. All right. According to majority scholar, there are three pillars of contract. Number one is actually sigha, expression, like ijab and qabul, like sayajwal, yubili, this kind of things, offer and acceptance. This is the first pillar. The second pillar is actually parties. When you come to parties, is a buyer and seller. The third pillar was actually the Mabi'. Mabi' means the subject matter, the one what we are selling. This is the majority scholar. And when I still remember, if you remember, we also talk about Imam Abu Hanifa's perspective on pillars of contract. He says there is only two. It's not three. In fact, what he says two is actually the first one according to the majority scholar. According to Imam Abu Hanifa, the pillar of contract is only ijab and qabul, offer and acceptance. The remaining all will follow it. So now this offer and acceptance, it is called expression, sigha, according to the majority scholars. So now look at the differences here. Majority scholars say three. Imam Abu Hanifa says two, but he says two, which means the first one is ijab, the second one is qabul. All right. Look at what Imam al-Ghazali says. Imam Ghazali says it is three. It is three, but it is actually one. Number one is the seller. Number two is the buyer. Number three is actually who? Is actually the object matter, subject matter. So you can see here that the differences in looking into This is all actually a kind of very good argument, because time to time the pillars of transaction can change. Not necessarily it has to be, because now we buy stuff before we see it. We see it actually, but we don't see it using our naked eye, but we see it through the screen, and then we buy. Now we are doing transaction, like e-hailing, like e-commerce, and then hospitality, like booking hotels and all. We are actually even buying air ticket and all. Actually, now it's becoming. Now we have coupons. We have points to redeem and everything. So the things are changing. Tomorrow there will be digital currency. There will be cryptocurrency, and the things are happening. So you can see that time to time this is also changing. According to his time, which is actually the 5th century, I think he saw that Arkanul Bay is actually 3, but this 3 is not exactly what been practiced earlier. All right. And then he talks about also the 6th condition of the Mabia, meaning the subject matter. What are the 6 conditions of the subject matter? He says the item must be pure. Okay, so the prohibited items cannot come into. This is the first condition. The second condition, he say the exchange should be useful and beneficial. If there is nothing use, that should not come under Mabia. Then he say the seller should be the owner of the item of the sale. The one who sell, he must be the owner, and the item of sale must be transferable in Sharia approved manner, something that can be transferable. And then number 5, he says the item of sale must be known with certainty and also its quality and quantity. And the item of sale must be in the possession of the seller. Okay, these are the additional things. Again, there are a few things additionally what we learn from Fit for Economist 1. So I want you to remember those things and put together. This is how we can develop. Even today, if I have to ask you what are the conditions of Mabia, then you will have different conditions of Mabia, because now things are changing. The way that we are doing the transactions are different. So the modern economic terms, the modern economic Muamalat, it has to follow the old one, but there must be some revisions. Yeah, okay. And then he talks about, okay, the next one he talks about market price and profits. I think I will keep that for the next class. All right. Let me see if I have anything to add here. Okay, most probably we covered it. Okay, so let me give you the attendance. Okay, this is your attendance. Yeah.